Hi everyone, welcome back. If you're learning English or trying to improve your speaking skills, you're in the right place. In today's video, we'll discuss the most common mistakes English learners make and, more importantly, how to avoid them. Stick around because tip number 5 might completely change how you speak English. Okay, first up, let's talk about prepositions. These little words might seem insignificant, but they play a huge role in the English language. They help us understand the relationships between different elements in a sentence. And without them, our sentences would be a jumbled mess. You know, those tiny words like on, in, at, with, for, of, they can be so confusing. Each preposition has its own specific use, and sometimes they can be quite tricky to master. It's not just about knowing the words, it's about knowing how to use them correctly in different contexts. Like seriously, why are there so many? And why do they all have to be so specific? It's almost as if the English language is trying to trip us up on purpose. And why do they have to be so specific? Each preposition can change the meaning of a sentence entirely. For example, she is at the park versus she is in the park. One little word can make a big difference. It's like they're trying to make our lives difficult. But don't worry, with a bit of practice, you can get the hang of it. One super common mistake is using the wrong preposition with a verb. This can make your sentences sound awkward or even change their meaning entirely. For example, I've heard people say, I discussed about the topic, but like you don't need about with discuss. It just sounds weird. The correct way to say it is, I discussed the topic. Simple, right? But it's a really common mistake. Another example is saying, I'm interested on learning English. Nope, it should be interested in. See, even I have to stop and think about it sometimes. The key here is to pay attention to how native speakers use prepositions. Listen to conversations, watch movies, read books, immerse yourself in the language. And honestly, I get it. Prepositions are tricky, but don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process. Another tip is to write down common verb-preposition combinations. Create a study guide for yourself. This can be incredibly helpful when you're trying to remember which preposition to use with which verb. And don't beat yourself up if you make mistakes. Everyone does. Even native speakers sometimes get it wrong. The important thing is to keep practicing and to learn from your mistakes. Over time, you'll find that using prepositions correctly becomes second nature. So pay attention to how native speakers use prepositions. Listen carefully and try to mimic their usage. This will help you get a better feel for the language. Don't be afraid to write down common verb-preposition combinations. Keep a notebook handy and jot down any interesting phrases you come across. And don't beat yourself up if you make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process. Remember, practice makes perfect. So keep practicing, keep learning, and soon enough, those prepositions won't seem so tricky after all. Alright, next up, let's talk about word order. English can be kind of strict about this, which can be frustrating if your native language is more flexible. One common mistake I've noticed is putting the question word in the wrong place. For example, someone might say, you went where yesterday? But the correct word order is, where did you go yesterday? See how the question word comes first, followed by the auxiliary verb did, then the subject you, and finally the main verb go. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but trust me, with practice it'll become second nature. Another mistake is putting adjectives after the noun they describe. In English, we usually put adjectives before the noun. So instead of saying a car red, we say a red car. It's the little things, you know. Okay, so articles are another big one. English has these little words like a, an, and the, and they can be kind of a pain. Sometimes we use them, sometimes we don't, and it can be hard to know when to use which one. A common mistake is using a or an before a plural noun. For example, saying a dogs is incorrect. It should be just dogs. We only use a or an before singular nouns. Another mistake is using the when we're talking about something in general. For example, if you say, the cats are cute, it sounds like you're talking about specific cats, like maybe the ones in your neighborhood. But if you're talking about cats in general, you would just say, cats are cute. No, they're needed. Alright, let's be real, English pronunciation can be a wild ride. It's like navigating a maze where the walls keep shifting. Just when you think you've got it figured out, a new twist comes along. We have so many words that sound nothing like how they're spelled. It's almost as if the language is playing a prank on us. Take the word colonel, for instance. It looks like it should be pronounced colonel, but it's actually colonel. Like seriously, who thought it was a good idea to spell cough that way? And don't even get me started on words like knight and gnome. The silent letters are just there to trip you up. One common mistake is stressing the wrong syllable in a word. This can completely change the meaning or make it hard for others to understand you. For example, the word record can be a noun or a verb depending on where you place the stress. For example, the word hotel is pronounced with the stress on the second syllable, hotel, not hotel. Misplacing the stress can make you sound less fluent and can sometimes even lead to misunderstandings. It's a subtle difference, but it can make a big impact on your fluency. Practicing the correct stress patterns can help you sound more natural and confident when speaking. Another mistake is pronouncing silent letters. These letters are like hidden traps in the language, waiting to catch you off guard. Words like island and debt have silent letters that can be tricky for learners. English has a lot of these, like the E at the end of comfortable. It's not comfortable, but comfortable. Ignoring these silent letters can make your speech sound more natural. We don't pronounce the E, so it's comfortably, not comfortably. Mastering these quirks can significantly improve your pronunciation and make you sound more like a native speaker. The best way to improve your pronunciation is to listen to native speakers as much as possible. Immersing yourself in the language helps you pick up the natural rhythms and sounds. Watch movies, listen to music, even pay attention to how people talk on the street. These real-life examples can provide valuable insights into how words are actually pronounced. And don't be afraid to record yourself and listen back. This can be a powerful tool for self-improvement, allowing you to hear your own mistakes and work on them. It might feel awkward at first, but it's a really helpful way to identify areas where you can improve. Over time, you'll notice your pronunciation getting better and your confidence growing. Okay, this last tip is a game changer. Are you ready for this? Stop translating directly from your native language. I know it sounds obvious, but it's something that a lot of learners do without even realizing it. When you translate directly, you often end up with sentences that are grammatically correct, but sound unnatural. Like, they might make sense, but they just don't sound like something a native speaker would say. For example, in some languages, you might say, I have cold when you're sick. But in English, we say, I have a cold. It's a small difference, but it makes a big impact on how natural your English sounds. The key is to start thinking in English as much as possible. Instead of translating every word in your head, try to learn phrases and expressions as a whole. This will help you sound more fluent and natural. That's it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. Hopefully you found these tips helpful. Remember, every bit of effort you put into learning a new language brings you one step closer to fluency. Learning a language is a journey that requires time, patience, and dedication. It's completely normal to feel frustrated at times, but don't let that discourage you. Just keep practicing, and you'll get there eventually. Practice with a partner, read out loud, and immerse yourself in the language as much as possible. And most importantly, have fun with it. Learning should be an enjoyable experience. Engage with friends, play language games, and make it a part of your daily life. Learning English should be an adventure, not a chore. Explore new places, meet new people, and use every opportunity to practice your skills. Now, go out there and practice those prepositions. Understanding how to use prepositions correctly can greatly improve your sentence structure and overall communication. Work on your word order and make sure your sentences flow naturally. Pay attention to how native speakers construct their sentences. Focus on your pronunciation and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Use language apps, practice in front of a mirror, and listen to native speakers to improve your accent. And don't forget to subscribe for more chaotic language learning content. We have plenty of tips, tricks, and fun activities to help you on your language learning journey.